Okay, so we just took you guys through the basic mobility assessment through trying to touch his toes, seeing if he can lift the leg up and what kind of length that posterior chain has. Sometimes that term gets thrown around a lot, you know, essentially foot, calf, hamstring, glutes, all the way up into that upper back. Anything that would restrict and get pulled across along that back side as we're going to go touch the toes would be that posterior chain. So Corey had good mobility. What I don't want everybody doing is if somebody doesn't need a mobility tool, don't give them a mobility tool. Give them something else. If they need a mobility tool, utilize it. It's fantastic. It works wonders. But what we're also going to show you is I'm going to follow up any kind of mobility tool I give somebody with an activation exercise to try to make whatever change I'm trying to create stick, because that's the important thing. And then not only does it have to stick, I then have to put it into a pattern. So that's what we're going to start crafting that right now. Okay. That being said, if somebody can't touch their toes and they have pain and all kinds of stuff, that may not be a training problem. That might be a medical problem. If that's a medical problem, you know, get in touch with a physical therapist, get in touch with a doctor, like have them seek care for that, okay? So remember, there's a difference between fitness problems and medical problems. All right, so one thing that we can do to really loosen up those hammies is, and kind of like get into some of those trigger points, maybe inhibit that system and let it all lessen out a little bit. Go ahead, I'm going to have you put that underneath your left hamstring and you're going to kind of sit on it. You're going to sit up nice and tall, which is going to reinforce this good positioning that I want. His pelvis kicks under that way. Stay nice and tall. Kick that leg out straight for me. How's that feel?
Ooh, good stretch.
Good stretch, right? You can feel that ball kind of pressing in there?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a little yucky, right? Then bring that leg back down. What you can do is hunt around and see if you can find a couple of spots. Sometimes we have these little hot spots or trigger points back there. This is great. You can just keep kicking it. But what we want to make sure is, again, I want this to maintain rigid, that maintenance of neutral spine, and I want this to lengthen or kind of fully express itself.
And why do you want that maintenance of flat spine if he's unloaded?
If he's unloaded, we always are going to try to encourage that maintenance of neutral. It's not to say that your spine can't come out of neutral, but we don't ever want it to come out of neutral when you're loaded. That being said, anytime we're working on building a pattern, I want it successfully and sequentially to be built off the strength of the foundation, meaning I want him to show me that he can keep that straight, and then when we start making the movement more complex, can he still keep it straight? When we start to load it, can he still keep it straight? If I ask that he starts breaking this or I let him get away with it here, I don't want to see it in the deadlift. If I ask for it to stay straight here, I want to see it straight in the deadlift.
Gotcha. So it's practice how you play.
Practice how you play. Absolutely. Good. So you can hunt around and find some spots. I got a nasty one right here on my left side. Right side's pretty clean. So everybody is going to have their own little sets of limitations, but sometimes it's just a matter of letting people hunt this around and find it. Okay, great. Come on over here. Let's start that was just a basic hamstring trigger point type of release. Corey, next thing I have you do is you're going to lie down, head down here. You're going to put one leg up on this. So again, Corey's got some pretty good posterior chain mobility, so he can scooch all the way up to that thing, and then this right leg can come down here, that toe pointed up towards the ceiling. And even for him, he does pretty well, but this is kind of a stretch, right? Okay, if you can't go this far, come back. Maybe you start at a 50-degree angle, 60, 70, 80, and you get closer and closer and closer as your mobility improves. That's great. What we want now, Corey, I want you to take that right leg, lift it all the way up as high as you can, and then you're going to slowly let it come all the way down. And when you feel it in the most intense part of that stretch, I want you to cycle one breath into your belly. We've talked about breathing in the past. Breathing is a great way to tell the body that this is okay. So if he breathes right there, his body is going to hopefully accept this position a little bit better than if he just holds it and bears through it. We don't want it to be that intense. There's spectrums of how intense something should be, or the threshold. This should all be very low threshold. Picking up a car or a max deadlift, that is a high threshold activity. This should not approximate that. Okay? So we'll do about 10 of those on each side. Now, how do I get this to stick? And better question, what if they don't need mobility? Well, if they don't need mobility, we wouldn't do this. But almost everybody can benefit from some sort of an activation exercise. So Corey, scoot out here for me if you would. So let's say we've loosened him up, or let's say he walked in the door and he can palm the ground, he's got great mobility. Again, we can always benefit from activation exercise. Lie on your back for me. Let's put your head down here. Corey, what I'm going to have you do is you're going to take this band, you're going to hold it, We're doing the deadlift today. A big part of the deadlift is also getting those shoulder blades back. Let's get your feet together and straight. What I want you to do, you're going to sink those shoulder blades back. You're going to pull that band down to the ground. This is going to fire his core off. And I want you to keep one leg totally straight and then lift the other one totally straight up as high as you can go. Bring it back down and then let that band go. Pull it apart and do the other one. So we're setting those shoulder blades. We're starting to pattern this, what we want to see. It's a little backwards in the hip, but regardless, I'm integrating his stable core, his scapular activation, and trying to have him move solely at the hips. Sounds like a deadlift, right? So bit by bit, we're sequentially building this pattern of the deadlift, hopefully for better success, better positioning, better performance. Very good. All right, so next we're going to take a look at how do we start loading this and how do we start getting them more vertical, and how do we start building this pattern, okay?